The doomsday clock ticks closer to midnight. Here's a comprehensive list of the events of 2024 that have brought us closer to the abyss. Russia lowered its threshold for nuclear use as a part of its doctrine. They conducted combined nuclear exercises that involved all branches of their strategic forces and doomsday planes, all of which have been on the highest state of alert for some time. They deployed S-500 anti-ICBM systems in Crimea, and they put the Beluga sub-launched nuclear ballistic missile into service. They conducted 3 phases of tactical nuclear drills with Belarus along the Ukrainian border. They, alike the Chinese and the United States, prepared their nuclear testing grounds to recommence nuclear weapons testing, and they also mass-produced portable nuclear-resistant shelters. They created nuclear simulations for training their soldiers to fight a nuclear war, and conducted CBRN training in elementary schools. The Russian ambassador left Washington and has not been replaced, signaling growing diplomatic isolation. Russia increased its military personnel by 400,000 troops, and they allegedly shot down a NATO plane in the Black Sea, leading to a cessation in NATO surveillance flights in that region. The Pentagon accused Russia of launching a nuclear military spacecraft, and Russia accused the Pentagon of the same. Russia has also been accused of developing a nuclear-tipped anti-satellite missile. Russia, for the first time, used the Orezhnik intermediate-range ballistic missile, signifying a massive escalation in the conflict. Similarly, Germany, in a massive strategic escalation, made the decision to put U.S. intermediate-range Tomahawk missiles inside its country. The Crocus terrorist attack in Moscow was one of the largest in Russia's history, signaling the beginning of a new arms race in Europe. Russia has decoupled from Western media, cutting off services like YouTube and removing Western media agencies. Western countries followed in suit. Widespread Ukrainian drone attacks against Russian targets became commonplace. They targeted oil and gas infrastructure, weapons depots, manufacturing facilities, as well as critical infrastructure. Ukraine has now refused to extend the gas transit agreement with Russia beyond 2024, meaning that Europe will now be effectively cut off from Russian gas. For the first time, Ukraine used NATO-supplied Storm Shadow and ATACMS missiles to conduct strikes into the Russian mainland. Record-breaking cyber attacks occurred between Russia and Ukraine, both of which targeted critical infrastructure. In an unprecedented move, the Ukrainians invaded the Russian mainland in Kursk, of which they still have an established foothold to this day. Ukraine successfully attacked Russia's over-the-horizon nuclear radars, nuclear bombers, airstrips, as well as several S-400 missile defense systems. Ukraine has also requested intermediate-range Tomahawk missiles, NATO troops to be deployed in the country, and even nuclear weapons. NATO has also substantially increased its mercenary deployments into Ukraine. NATO and Russia failed to use nuclear hotlines during critical moments of 2024. The US actually conducted a subcritical nuclear test and began building a new doomsday plane. NATO turbocharged its defense spending and launched the Steadfast Defender exercise, which was the largest military exercise of its sort since the Cold War. This effectively simulated a nuclear world war. Certified stealth fighters are also getting ready to carry the B-61-12 tactical nuclear bomb. The US has updated its nuclear deterrence strategy and is now preparing to fight limited nuclear wars on multiple continents. They've also put their nuclear submarine fleet on a higher state of alert. They delivered longer-range ATACMS missiles to Ukraine and provided Ukraine with an ASC-890 radar system to enable them to do deep strikes, all of which was authorized by the Pentagon later in the year. France conducted 4 nuclear bomber strike exercises and nearly doubled its military budget. Poland began building bunkers along the Belarusian border under its Eastern Shield program. They trained children for war and issued war survival guides. They also seen the completion of the largest and most sophisticated NATO missile defense system, the Aegis Ashore Missile Defense System. The United Kingdom sent out public PSA warnings that war is coming, urging all citizens to prepare. Romania began construction of the largest NATO military outpost. Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and Poland all constructed anti-tank defenses, bunkers, and evacuation plans along Russian borders. Germany began expanding its bunker network as well as preparing its healthcare system and schools for wartime. There was also an intelligence leak about a German plot to bomb the Crimean Bridge. Sweden and Switzerland also expanded their bunker networks, and France and Australia considered reinstating mandatory military service. NATO also began practicing to deploy its tactical nuclear fighter aircraft from highways, distributing its assets in such case of a nuclear war. In the later part of December, the UK decided to commit to sending troops to Ukraine not only to train soldiers, but to possibly partake in frontline activities. Nuclear-capable F-16s were delivered to Ukraine. The United States provided the Kiev government with the CBRN equipment and training in order to respond to a possible nuclear emergency. The German government proposed spending 1 billion euros annually overhauling the civil defense infrastructure. The EU Commission told its citizens that they need to have 72 hours worth of provisions. Lithuania and other Baltic states prepared mass evacuation plans in such case that the Russians invaded the country. Norway disperses their nuclear-capable F-35s in bunkers across the country, specifically at the Norwegian Mountain Hangar Complex at Bardufoss Air Base. The Latvian government released one of the most detailed war survival guides of all the European countries. Iran launched the True Promise 1 and 2 missile campaigns in response to provocations by Israel. These were the largest ballistic missile barrages in history, and the first time that Iran has ever directly attacked Israel. Iran claims that it can assemble nuclear weapons in days and showcase 500-foot-deep missile cities. Israel is allegedly preparing to strike Iran's nuclear facilities and reportedly has already targeted the Isfahan facility as well as many missile defense installations in Iran. In an unprecedented move, Israel decapitated the entire Hezbollah leadership using the largest kinetic cyber attack in human history in the form of exploding 5,000 pagers simultaneously. In response to the hundreds of thousands of casualties of the Gaza war, an ICC arrest warrant was issued for Benjamin Netanyahu. The Iranian President Raisi was also killed in a helicopter crash. Syria also collapsed in record time. North Korea conducted record ICBM launch tests and deployed 10,000 artillery pieces along the border with the South. Tensions in the region have reached an all-time high since the Korean War, and North Korea has expanded its nuclear stockpile to 75 weapons. The North Koreans and Russians signed a strategic partnership which seen 10,000 containers of artillery ammunition as well as North Korean troops sent to the front lines. Currently, North Korean troops are alleged to be fighting in Kursk. South Korea conducted joint exercises with the United States that simulated nuclear strikes against North Korea, and South Korea conducted nationwide nuclear drills, and they also declared martial law, but only for a few hours. China conducted a record amount of military exercises near and around Taiwan. By year's end, China had amassed 600 nuclear weapons, though some experts believe this number could be much higher. They also continued to stockpile commodities like gold, copper, oil, and grain, while selling U.S. bonds. The U.S. debt reached $36 trillion, with $1 trillion in annual interest payments. The Japanese carry trade collapsed, temporarily destabilizing global markets. Gold prices rocketed to record new highs as nations prepared for financial instability, and the world set a new record for military spending, hitting the $2.4 trillion mark. The USA banned the importation of Russian uranium. This, in addition to hundreds of sanctions, accelerates the total decoupling between Russia and the collective West's economies. Warren Buffett and his Berkshire Hathaway firm established the largest cash position in the firm's history. This, when paired with dozens of economic indicators like the Shiller PE ratio, all signified that the market was at record levels of overvaluation towards the end of the year. 2024 was the hottest year on record with the warmest sea temperatures by a wide margin. Record-breaking drought devastated South America, and Hurricane Helene caused significant damage in North Carolina, certainly one of the worst natural disasters in the United States history. And the iconic Canadian town of Jasper burned down in a wildfire. Solar storms had the potential to create disruptions around the world. For example, some of these events even impacted farm equipment in Canada, exposing vulnerabilities in just-in-time delivery food systems. The largest IT outage in history disrupted global infrastructure with a blue screen of death glitch. A global bird flu outbreak has become endemic in the United States livestock population, and recently led to a state of emergency being declared in California. The New Jersey drone phenomena revealed the vulnerabilities of U.S. national security. Drones have been sighted at military bases across the United States, as well as the UK and Ramstein military bases. Trump survived an assassination attempt, narrowly averting a civil war, and Robert Fico, the president of Slovakia, was also the target of an assassination attempt. Countries like Georgia and Venezuela saw significant civil unrest and coup attempts. And finally, in a display of eschatological symbolism, blood-covered horses ran loose in London, creating panic in the streets, perhaps a harbinger for things to come. On that note, in terms of the doomsday clock, it's safe to say that we're closer to midnight than ever before. All the more reason to prepare to be more self-reliant if and when things go sideways. Thanks for watching, and thank you for supporting this channel throughout the year. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Canadian Prepper out.
The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com, where you'll find high-quality survival gear at the best prices, no junk, and no gimmicks. Use discount code PREPPINGGEAR for 10% off. Don't forget, the strong survive, but the prepared thrive. Stay safe.